Hi, I'm Steve Williams, and this is Scooter and the Sticks. I'm out in the garden with the dogs today, hoping to get this intro in before it rains. But today, I wasn't even sure whether I should make this video because part of it seems like it could get preachy on my part. And I certainly don't want to do that. But it's a result of questions I get sometimes about whether a husband or wife or child should get a scooter or motorcycle. So I thought, while a lot of people's ideas about that might be irrational, there's certainly risk involved in riding. So I thought about the question for a while and came up with the idea that I have 10 questions that I would ask someone before I gave my approval, not that they need it, to get a scooter or motorcycle. So those questions really get at a person's temperament and attitude towards being on the road. And if they answer them in a way that I think is consistent with being safe, then maybe they're a good candidate for being a scooter or motorcycle rider. So let's go for a ride. I'll talk a little bit more about them, and you can let me know in the comments what you think and how you might answer people when they say, should my husband or spouse or wife or child get a motorcycle? So let's go. Know-it-all riders have perhaps an unwarranted level of confidence. And when you apply that to riding a motorcycle, it can be a problem. No one is born with the ability to ride a motorcycle. And just mastering the physical part of operating a machine is the easy part. But if your spouse or partner is someone who just forges ahead and figures they'll figure things out as they go, that's not a good quality to bring to the table if you want to own and ride a scooter or motorcycle. Alcohol is involved in or directly responsible for about 27% of motorcycle fatalities and is involved in far more crashes. If they think it's okay to go out to dinner and have a couple drinks and then drive home, that may be a red flag for someone who is going to ride a motorcycle, especially considering how many motorcycle events seem to occur on bike nights and places where alcohol is going to be served. So if they think it's okay to have a drink and jump on a motorcycle, I would be hesitating before I told someone that, I think it's a great idea that you get a motorcycle. Are they teachable? That's a good question. Being teachable means you're willing to say, I don't know, and you're open to learning something new. be a sound rider, a safe rider, means you're willing to learn new skills, strategies on the road, practice. And so being open to learning is a positive reminder in my book for anyone who seeks to have a motorcycle or scooter. Do they have life insurance? And is their will up to date? Now this is straying pretty far from motorcycle riding, but for me it's an indication that the person's responsible and they're thinking beyond just buying a motorcycle. If you're out there riding, your risk of injury and dying is much greater than if you're in a car. And having life insurance, and I'm talking about term life insurance, don't get sucked into buying whole life or universal life, or someone selling you on the idea that life insurance can be an investment. That's a scam. But term insurance at the level of about 10 times your annual income. So if you make $50,000 a year, you should have $500,000 of term life insurance to make up for your income should something really bad happen. Same with a will. Again, a will may not have anything directly to do with riding a scooter or motorcycle, but it does say something about how responsible you are. It makes life a lot easier for the people you leave behind if you have a will in place. You don't have to wait till you're old to have a will either. Cursing is just an expression of frustration, anger, resentment, entitlement, a whole bunch of stuff that can get you in trouble. If they do this, you have to question how suited someone might be to being on a scooter or motorcycle. That kind of aggression makes it real difficult to learn how to be a defensive rider. Because on the road, doesn't matter if you have the right of way, it doesn't matter whether you're right. You're going to lose in any battle with a vehicle. So if you can't control your emotions while you're riding, then maybe you're not a good candidate to be on the road on a motorcycle. Tailgating is another face of aggression. If they tailgate, if they're constantly pushing people to go faster, if they have the feeling that they need to be somewhere in a hurry, those are all red flags for me for someone who wants to ride on a scooter or motorcycle. What are their thoughts on helmets? Now, I know helmets are a contentious issue in the motorcycle community. I think they're unhealthily connected to some notion of freedom, but you have to wonder if someone's freedom to not wear a helmet is more closely connected to a fashion statement or conforming to some lifestyle or look that follows a certain kind of motorcycle. A helmet drastically reduces fatalities and injuries, and I think if someone has some thoughts on helmets and they're a potential rider, and if they can't really explain why they believe what they believe in terms of safety, because a helmet is about as close to a life preserver as a seatbelt as you're going to get while riding a scooter or motorcycle. If they can't justify that line of thinking, then maybe something like bass fishing or bowling might be a more appropriate thing to do. Now here's something, going down a one-way street, someone wants to come this way. Well, there they go. That's interesting. It's one of the many things. You come flying down the street thinking it's a one-way street. No one will ever violate that. And all of a sudden there's someone coming right at you. So if you can't control the throttle, it can be a problem, because stuff is always happening on the road. As a kid, I rode a lot. Dirt bikes and strip mines and gravel pits, and I thought I was a good rider. And then I didn't ride for 20 years or more. And I can remember when I was thinking about riding again, and I bought a scooter. I thought, I'm a good rider. And then I took the MSF beginner course and realized I'm not a good rider. Yeah, I could make the machine go down the road and handle it that way, but I was absolutely clueless about strategies on the road to keep myself safe. I really was, I don't know, I didn't realize how much more complicated things were on two wheels than in my car. And, you know, I knew a lot of the rules of the road from driving a car, but none of that really prepared me to safely operate a motorcycle. So when you ask someone, how good a rider do you think you are, you want to listen closely to what they say, and whether it engenders a healthy respect for their lack of experience, or whether there's that overconfidence and arrogance in play. What kind of scooter or motorcycle do they want? You might have to do a little research in this area to fully understand someone's answer when asked about what kind of motorcycle they want to get. But maybe as a rule of thumb, if the motorcycle weighs more than 700 pounds or has 150 horsepower, you really have to question someone's choice as something to have when they're just starting to ride. And if you push a little more and ask about, what about a beginner bike for a year or so. If you hear your spouse or partner's rationalization about why they need that bigger bike or why it doesn't make economic sense, if you suspect there's a hint of ego involved on what they're riding, then maybe they're not a good candidate to be a new motorcycle or scooter rider. Now I know there are people that can buy a brand new fully dressed Harley Davidson bagger and as their beginner bike and head out in the world and do fine, but I suspect that's more the exception than the rule. So definitely something you want to factor into whether you're going to give approval for something. If your significant other tends to speed when they're driving a car, and I'm not talking about going 80 miles an hour on an interstate highway when the speed limit's 70, but I'm talking about roads like this, 2-lane back roads that have straightaways that on a motorcycle you could easily crank the throttle up and fly through here at 80 miles an hour. If you know there's someone who speeds, there's no reason to think they're not going to continue to do that on a motorcycle or scooter, and maybe worse, because the throttle is seductive. Well, that wraps things up for this episode of Scooter and the Sticks. There's a lot to think about when your spouse or partner asks you if they can get a scooter or motorcycle. It's not always a financial question, though sometimes it is. For me, it would be something I would be considering their temperament and whether I thought they would be capable of not going out and just innocently putting themselves at risk because they're not willing to learn how to ride or how to do something else that's important. So keep all that in mind if you ever get the question or you're in a position. And that wraps it up for this episode of Scooter and the Sticks. Until next time, be well and ride safe.